So we're going to be comparing and contrasting WordPress and HubSpot. A little bit about me. I'm a freelance web developer. I've been developing websites for 10 years now. The majority of that time I was WordPress based. But in 2020 or thereabouts, I made the jump to developing on HubSpot and haven't really looked back an awful lot. I still do a bit of work on WordPress, but it's mostly HubSpot for me now. Just a little splash screen there. And the areas we're going to be focusing on: cost, ease of use, security, analytics, maintenance, and SEO tools. We're going to talk about cost here first. Again, like Cody said, sort of a broad overview here. I've translated some of the numbers from American dollars to Canadian. But again, speak to your HubSpot representative to figure out all that. And there's lots of tables to go through here. We're going to go through it pretty quickly. I'll send the slideshow on to Cody, and he can send it on to anyone that's interested. So the core website management tools: WordPress, free, obviously. And the HubSpot CMS has a free tier as well. You're going to have more limited pages than you can create in the paid levels, and you'll have the little HubSpot badge down in the corner, but everything else, you've got a lot of the features there. And then we've got the price levels for the whole packages on HubSpot there. Hosting, you're going to have to pay for your WordPress hosting separately. Popular platforms like GoDaddy, it's going to run about $25 a month or thereabouts. And then for all of the HubSpot tiers, your hosting is included in the package. Security, HubSpot, you're going to be reliant on plugins. We're going to go a little bit more into that in detail now. We're just talking about the cost here, but popular plugins for WordPress that handle security, like Securi, will run $22 to $55 a month. And then at every level on the HubSpot CMS, it's included in your package. Plugins, WordPress has infinite plugins, lots of free ones, but if you're paying for the professional versions, the estimate is that if you were to get the top 25 professional plugins for WordPress, you'd be looking at a range of $300 to $1,500. That's a big range. And obviously not everyone's going to be using all of those. They're going to be intended for different functionality. HubSpot doesn't have plugins, but they've got integrations with things like Google Calendars, Google Ads, WhatsApp, etc. And that's all going to be included. And then you've got an array of modules built into the CMS that will extend the functionality of your website also. Maintenance up.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, quick question on the plugins, just to ask some questions that I always knew I had. Do you run into any common areas where there isn't a HubSpot app to fill the niche that a WordPress plugin might have been able to?
So yeah, so I'll address that towards the end, but specifically things like e-commerce. So e-commerce through WordPress, you've got WooCommerce is the big one, and then WooCommerce has its own entire ecosystem of sort of feature enhancing plugins. That's, I think, really where the only thing I can think of where you'd have a plugin on WordPress that wouldn't quite be matched by anything on HubSpot yet, because they don't handle transactional stuff just yet. They're bringing it in the States, but it's being trialed now just there. So we'll have to see how that rolls out, and I haven't had the chance to play around with it yet. Okay, so we'll talk about maintenance. Massive pain point here for WordPress. As I say, I developed for WordPress for the bulk of my career, and most of what I was doing was maintenance for people and fixing things when things went wrong, right? So that's what people are paying for, and an estimate here is that you could go in the range of $1,000 or $130 to $5,000 a month. That all really depends on how complex your site is, what sort of data you're storing, you know. So that's a broad range, but by comparison, HubSpot maintenance is just hands off pretty much. So there is no additional cost there. It's done on their end, and it's all in the back end. So estimated total cost here, as we said, big broad range for WordPress. Obviously, probably no one's going to be at that high end, because you're not going to be using every single pro plugin imaginable. But on the other end of that, you're probably not going to be on the low end, because that's that would be just hosting. No security, no SSL, you know, your HTTPS certification and stuff like that, which is all included in HubSpot, and we see the various levels there. So Cody, you want to interject with anything on the costs there, or are you happy to move on to the next?
Nope, happy to go on the next one.
Perfect. So we're going to talk about ease of use here. Which one's more user-friendly and which is quickest to get off the ground. WordPress can be complex. You just getting it connected up can be complex. You know, getting the hosting connected to the domain name and stuff like that, it can be tough. HubSpot, it's a learning curve as well, but I think it's they walk you through it a little better. But there are plenty of tutorials online for WordPress, for the setup, for the blog stuff, and the page creation and content setup, you know. And as we said, WordPress have tons of plugins that'll help with the page creation end of things. But the more plugins you have, the more sort of precarious the platform becomes, you know. And the more complex setup you want, the more knowledge you'll need of things like PHP, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And HubSpot, it's designed specifically for marketers, developers, and IT teams, but they're separate levels of entry for that, you know. So HubSpot have this drag and drop editor specifically made for marketers to just get in there and set up a page super quick. Just drag in your text, your images, your contact forms, things like that, and it's pretty quick. Obviously, you'll need advanced coding knowledge for more complex stuff, but HubSpot provide these various different levels whereby it's as easy as it needs to be for simple stuff. More complex, you'll need a little bit of knowledge, but they do have the academy as well, so you can go in there and learn more if you really want to. The top level on that is that both take time to learn. There's abundant tutorials online for WordPress. Typo there, oh no. But because it's been around longer, there's a lot more tutorials out there, you know. But HubSpot is this all-in-one platform, so you don't have to go outside and get all these other add-ons that you need to learn how to use the interface for your Yoast plugin or whatever, you know, which we'll get to in a minute. It's pretty straightforward and it's all contained in one. So we're going to move on to security next, if that's all right with Cody. Security is essential nowadays. You really have to protect your website these days. It's tough. You got DDoS attacks, malware, bots, hacks, and the few WordPress sites that I manage, I get emails every day of someone trying to log in as admin. And that's from my security software on those sites telling me someone's trying to hack in. But yeah, HubSpot or WordPress has these many plugins, WordFence, Security, iTheme Security is the one I use, that really bolster your defenses against these things. And you'll also have your hosting platform will have various things to protect your website, depending on the level you're paying in at. And of course, you'll need to keep all your plugins and WordPress version up to date to keep everything safe. HubSpot, they're selling you software, so all the security is provided right in there. You have your SSL certificate. There's really no additional stuff to monitor on your end. I have not thought about security once since I moved my own site to HubSpot. It's set up and it's fine. And they have a 24-hour team that monitors all of this. So there's not loads to say on security on their end. I have not once gotten any kind of report of anything from any client. So we're going to move on to analytics, which I'm sure everyone is interested in. On WordPress, limited reporting capabilities out of the box. Some versions will have page views and things like that, but plugins are where it's at. Monster Insights is probably the big one for Google Analytics there. And of course, you'll have various different platforms that you can connect to it. But the worry there is that all these different platforms can lead to data silos where you've got information about customers over here and information about customers over here, and it's not presenting a full picture, right? Because you're looking at all the analytics in several different places. And the goal then of HubSpot Analytics is that it's all maintained in one place. They've got their built-in analytics, which lets you monitor your ROI, and you can also integrate all those other platforms into HubSpot, and it will feed back into the one dashboard that lets you see your customer, where they're at, and easily add them to various different contact lists based on page views, content downloads, live chat interactions, and the like. It's an all-in-one experience, really. So maintenance. this is, as I said, a big bugbear for me at least, with WordPress. Time investment will vary hugely, depending on your site, how complex it is, how many plugins you're using, and your technical expertise. But it's absolutely always going to be vital to keep backups of everything, because I've never worked on a WordPress website that something didn't go wrong at some stage. You know, you update one plugin and it's affecting something else, messes up your whole site, and you need to figure out, oh, how did that happen? I got to roll back this plugin version. So for something like that, I'd use Updraft Plus, which is great for keeping backups of all that stuff. And we've got a lot of clients on that. And for HubSpot maintenance, this is a joke about the fact that there is no need for maintenance on HubSpot. There's effectively no maintenance required on the user's part to keep the train on the tracks, right? All the back end stuff handled on HubSpot's end. Obviously, you'll be maintaining your pages and stuff like that, keeping your information up to date. But in terms of the core stuff, that's just all through HubSpot.
I will, if you don't mind, I'll pop in with another question on this one, Barry. Because I know you said about backing up your website along with Updraft Plus and, you know, plugin updates. Is there any version control or rollback stuff within HubSpot CMS, even if it's just on a page level? Like, oh, I've made a change and I want to roll it back to yesterday's version because we've decided that product isn't going live or something.
That's a fantastic point, Cody. There's version control on everything in HubSpot. Like, so at a page level, when you're just setting stuff up, you can see all the different versions of the page, who made the changes on your team. You can, I think you can even comment as to why the changes were made. I'd have to double check that that's there. You can definitely do that on in the staging environment, which staging environment isn't on all tiers. I think it might be pro and higher. Maybe you could confirm or deny that. I don't know. But yeah, version control on all page setup, on all code elements. So all your page templates, your modules, all of that stuff, you can back up. It's a real lifesaver for both the developer and the marketer, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just doing a quick double check. I believe HubSpot's, yeah. So sandboxes are included at Enterprise and an extra add-on that you can buy at anything less than Enterprise. Okay. So do you, when you, speaking of sandboxes, when you're working with a CMS site, do you typically advise folks to, you know, have that sandbox instance, or, you know, do you, and don't worry, we won't tell, do most of your work kind of in a live environment?
It depends on the client. You know, if they have it in there already, and a lot of the time they'll have that higher level because of some other need, usually like a marketing need, right? They need so many seats or whatever. So they'd have it for that reason, and it's just a fantastic thing to have, that they can make their changes, see what it's like. And you know, if you don't have that feature, what you can do is you can make your changes and just not hit publish, and then there's a preview button, and you'll hit preview, you'll get a preview link, and you'll see it that way. It's basically the same. I suppose the only thing the sandbox would do would be if you're making a site-wide big change to how everything looked, you do your sandbox version of what they're going for.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks, man.
Great.
I'll let you get back on track.
All right. So SEO tools. This is another big one, I guess. WordPress The big name there is going to be Yoast. There are others, but I think Yoast is the gold standard. WordPress doesn't have any built-in functionality for SEO out of the gate, so it's going to be, again, some kind of plugin. And again, the more plugins you have, the more precarious things get, right? HubSpot, you've got built-in SEO tools that offer on-page tools for creation of blogs, site pages, landing pages. It's going to have all sorts of recommendations and flags for what you've done wrong on the page, right? And you've also got then the higher level tool that will show you recommendations for your site as a whole. It's going to go through every page and show you issues on each page. And one fantastic feature there is that it's going to tell you the technical difficulty of these things. So it'll flag like not enough keywords used in the page. Well, that's a marketer issue, you know. If there's some JavaScript that's slowing things down, it's going to tell you, well, that's for a developer to take care of. So it's pretty good about making sure everyone's doing the right job and that no one's trying to do some crazy code stuff that even I find difficult at times. I don't know if you've ever played with Google PageSpeed, but it'll tell you some things and sometimes you have to figure it out. So any questions on those SEO tools?
No, I think
All right.
I think I'm good.
Then just some brief strengths of each. WordPress, endlessly extendable. You know, you've got way more plugins and stuff like that, lots more themes. Those aren't always going to, that doesn't always mean that it's going to work how you want it to or look how you want it to, because you're depending on the styling from the plugin developer working in playing nice with the styling from your theme developer, right? And then there's a certain limitation to each theme and all of that. And of course you can go with a custom development and stuff like that, but you know, you're adding to your cost there. And as I mentioned before, WordPress currently better for e-commerce for sure. Something like real estate, because there's existing themes out there for this kind of thing. And there's a unique sort of setup with HubSpot where something like that, where you would want to add lots and lots of pages. I would use something like HubDB, which Cody we've discussed before, right? But then for something like a real estate site, you would want galleries within those pages, and there's a workaround to how you'd get the gallery into that page, but you're going to need a developer to do that. So HubSpot, it's an all-in-one platform, right? It's not the sort of Frankenstein's monster that WordPress is, where if you you know, you want to send your client emails after they sign up to your form, that's going to be done right through there. They're going to be added to a list that says they signed up through this page and here's their last contact date and all that. And it's all just going to be done in the one platform. You don't need to worry about it getting lost somewhere on some other database, right? And it's integrated obviously with the HubSpot CRM, because this is the core of HubSpot is marketing after all. So you want to tie it into your client database, and it all just goes through the CRM. And the contrast there is that WordPress started out as blogging software, right? So everything just got added on and added on. It's a bit of a house that Jack built situation, right? And I think HubSpot really frees you up to focus on your customers, your marketing, again, because no maintenance, no security. It's like, it's gonna just work that bit better. So that's all I've got. Thank you. Happy to take some questions if I can.
Awesome. Yeah, I was about to say, Barry, thanks so much for the overview and all kind of hitting all the major lobes. But yeah, Victoria, Jovan, Mercy, absolutely feel free to unmute and ask some questions. If you guys don't, I have a couple that I'll probably ask Barry, which you're more than welcome to hang around and get some answers to. But yeah, this is kind of, now we can open up the floor.
I have a question. So I've run into this before at previous organizations where they've had the rough experience in the past of the old HubSpot CMS. And the challenges that presented at that time kind of soured their thoughts on HubSpot CMS. So how would you kind of have that discussion as far as what's changed in regards to using, they already use WordPress and they're like, yeah, we don't want to change HubSpot CMS. We haven't heard good things about it. It's not a system we want in place.
Okay. So I'm guessing you're talking about the old gray template style where it was pretty fixed as to what the template could have, right?
Yeah, and a lot of you had to be a developer level and HubSpot stuff to be able to do any of the changes or make any edits, and just wasn't quite horror stories. You hear of old stuff on HubSpot CMS.
Right. For sure. I think the drag and drop templates change everything, to be honest. And they're not hard to create a drag and drop template either. You can just look up the documentation on that. I can send links on it, and it's 2 or 3 lines of code that could be fit into an existing plugin or into an existing theme, and then it becomes drag and drop, and it's just drag your text, your images, etc. And honestly, it's a lot cleaner than any other. I really don't like drag and drop editing as a rule, but HubSpot, I for some reason, it's a lot cleaner. It really sort of knows where the boundaries are on when you're dragging things, and it's much more flexible than the previous templates, all right. And I think it works better than any other page builder I've worked with in any case. And I should say I have no bias here. I have no no horse in this race, but as someone who's developed for both, I think it's much more user friendly now. And when I started getting into HubSpot as well, I would have been using the templates that you're talking about first, which were a bit more rigid. Yeah.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And Victoria, I'll tag in, because while I'm definitely not the CMS expert that Barry is, in my experience of kind of working with basically every other component of HubSpot for the last 6 years at this point. I find that almost every HubSpot feature follows a similar trajectory. I mean, other than the Marketing Hub, which was their, what they started with, basically like the Sales Hub, Service, Operations, they all kind of come in at that minimum viable product standpoint to fill what is frankly an extremely specific need. And with HubSpot, it started at, hey, we're going to give you a way to put your blog, to host your blog inside HubSpot. We're going to give you blog listing pages. We're going to give you blog templates. You're going to be good to go. They added on the landing pages before they really kind of said, committed about 2.5 years ago to saying, we're actually going to make a full CMS rather than just a couple of niche tools masquerading as a full CMS. And I think that design decision is really similar to, the transition from Sales Hub, from being like, yeah, we're going to give you the way up a place to store deals, to now being a legitimate kind of like mid-sized company CRM as a viable option. And the same journey that they've just been on with tickets, transitioning from something that was really just a copy paste of the deals funnel, now finally kind of starting to realize itself as like a legitimate customer service and ticket management window. So I would say anybody that's been snake bit by a previous iteration of HubSpot, that's kind of the story of a lot of HubSpot functionality before it gets good. And it's unfortunately that they do release niche solutions, kind of masquerading as fully featured solutions. But eventually the reality starts to live up to that hype, if that makes any sense.
It definitely does. It definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Now, Barry, I've got one for you, just a common scenario that I run into all the time, which is I have a WordPress website. I just want to make some landing pages. Should I make those? Should I go to the trouble of building custom themes inside HubSpot? Or should I just build those pages in WordPress and stick a HubSpot form in them? I don't know if there's going to be a definitive answer to this one, but do you have any advice that you give in those scenarios?
Well, for sure, like connecting up, there is the HubSpot plugin for WordPress that's going to do all that tracking, right? And you can embed your forms from HubSpot into WordPress. And then what I'll always do in that scenario is there's an option to serve the form as raw HTML, which means you can go into your WordPress settings and you can paste your CSS in there to style it how you want it to look. So, it's a viable option for sure. If you're happy with where your WordPress site is at, it's a good starting place, and then sometimes a lot of clients will have, their main site on WordPress, and then they'll have just landing pages on a subdomain through HubSpot. And in that case, you could go with, if you're going to go with like just a stripped down header and footer, there's going to be out of the box solutions for that, where you'll just add in your logo and stuff like that. If you want to more closely match your own header and footer, that's where someone would come to someone like me, and I do a lot of that work.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and honestly, that's usually the way it shakes out. Is if you're going to build an easy landing page, and you don't want to mutz around with your WordPress instance, HubSpot can meet the need. But yeah, a lot of times I tell people if they're happy with the options that they've got in their WordPress, then no need to duplicate work on the HubSpot side of things. So good to know. I haven't been giving people terrible advice for the last several years. All right. Cool. Well, Barry, if there's anything else you want to cover, or Victoria, if you've got any other questions you want to throw out, feel free. If not, we can likely wind down here. And I I will say again, thank you, Victoria, and thank you, Mercy, for going on the journey from Bevy to Zoom with us. I really appreciate your stick-to-itiveness, to steal a word from Seymour Skinner.
All good. No questions here. Thanks so much.
Okay. Awesome, guys. Well then, we will call it a day here. I will give you guys a few minutes of your time back, and I will send out the recording for this one. So we've all got it